All right, welcome back to Rise to Liberty. Doing a bit of a late show tonight. Didn't plan on doing things this late, but it's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles right this minute. But normally, on a Thursday, it will be a much earlier stream. So this is not normal time. So don't get used to this. Let's see real quick. Something I wanted to let everyone know. Let's see here. You can actually head over to buy me a coffee and actually go support the show if you would like. So all you have to do is go to buymeacoffee.com/deprogram, DEPROGRAM. Yeah. Okay. So you don't have to have a membership for the website, but it is up and functional right now. You can go buy 1, 3, 5, how many ever cups of coffee to help me continue all of this research I got to do. Go ahead, leave your social or some short message. I'll make sure and shout you out on the next stream. You can make it monthly or just a one-time donation. So feel free to go check that out. That'll also be in the chat. Let's see. So tonight it's going to be a little bit of a different show. I didn't have anything actually planned, but we're going to go ahead with something I've wanted to do for a minute. So what we're going to be doing tonight is actually just a live research session. So we're just going to be going through some things that were sent to me that kind of pertain to some not programs, but some projects that I'm working on in the background. So we're just going to be kind of going through a couple of articles, something that I thought would be interesting for you guys, but also actually helps me get other projects further along, kill two birds with one stone. So if this ends up being something that you guys like, let me know and we'll keep doing them. Otherwise, I won't, because really it's more about what you guys want to watch. Usually I just do this, by myself for hours. But I figured, hey, let's just do the stream anyways. And yeah, we'll see if this is something you guys are gonna want to watch. So we've got, let's see, really 3 stories if we can get to them, because I don't want to do a super long stream. I'm sure I will at one point, but tonight, not really feeling it to do a super long stream, that is. But we've got at least 2 stories to get through that I think will be interesting. The first one is actually a Politico article from 2019, I believe. It's The Secret History of Fort Detrick, the CIA's base for mind control experiments. It's a cutting-edge lab in the 1950s and 60s. It was the center of the U.S. government's darkest experiments. Somebody had sent this to me. Apparently it's a, let's see here. Let me fix this real quick so you guys can see it. Apparently this is a bit of the book that came out, Stephen Kinzer's book, Poisoner in Chief, all about Sidney Gottlieb and the CIA search for mind control. So I thought it would be kind of interesting. We'd sit and read it, go through it. If there's something interesting, if it ends up not being anything interesting, then we'll just skip it and go to the next thing, because I do have guaranteed things that are interesting. So let's see. So in 1954, a prison doctor in Kentucky isolated 7 black inmates and fed them double, triple, and quadruple doses of LSD for 77 days straight. No one knows what became of the victims. I have a pretty good idea. They may have died without knowing they were part of the CIA's highly secretive program to develop ways to control minds, a program based out of a little-known army base with a dark past, Fort Detrick. Which is still there, by the way, still being used for all sorts of things. Suburban sprawl has engulfed Fort Detrick, an army base 50 miles from Washington in the Maryland town of Frederick. 76 years ago, however, when the Army selected Detrick as the place to develop its super secret plans to wage germ warfare, the area around the base looked much different. In fact, it was chosen for its isolation. That's because Detrick's still thriving today as the Army's principal base for biological research, like I said, and now encompassing nearly 600 buildings on 1,300 acres, was, for years, the nerve center of the CIA's hidden chemical and mind control empire. Let's see. Detrick is today one of the world's cutting-edge laboratories for research into toxins and antitoxins, the place where defenses are developed against every plague from crop fungus to Ebola. Its leading role in the field is widely recognized for decades. Let's see. Much of what went on at the base was a closely held secret. Directors of the CIA mind control program MKUltra, which used Detrick as a key base, destroyed most of their records in 1973, thanks to Richard Helms. Some of its secrets have been revealed in declassified documents through interviews and as a result of congressional investigations. Together, those sources reveal Detrick's central role in MKUltra and in the manufacture of poisons intended to kill foreign leaders. Not just foreign leaders, anybody. Anybody they wanted to get rid of is who the poisons were for. They weren't just saying, okay, these are the foreign leader poisons and these are the domestic terrorist poisons. Like, it was just for anybody. It's kind of a odd thing to say. In 1942, alarmed by reports that Japanese forces were waging germ warfare in China, the Army decided to launch a secret program to develop biological weapons. We were doing it before then. It hired a University of Wisconsin biochemist, Ira Baldwin, to run the program and asked him to find a site for a new bio-research complex. Baldwin chose a mostly abandoned National Guard base below called Detrick Field. On March 9th, 1943, the Army announced that it had renamed the field Camp Detrick, designated it as headquarters of the Army Biological Warfare Laboratories, and purchased several adjacent farms to provide extra room and privacy. Okay. That was kind of boring. Let's see. Okay. As the Cold War. I want to know, give me some more details in this. Not that this is boring by any means, but this isn't interesting things to watch. So, let's see here. So in the spring of 1949, the Army created a small super secret team of chemists at Camp Detrick called the Special Operations Division. Its assignment was to find military uses for toxic bacteria, though the coercive use of toxins as a new field, and chemists at Special Operations Division had to decide how to begin their research. So this is actually where, if anyone is familiar with this story, this is where Frank Olson was actually in charge. He was in charge of the chemical and biological weapons division across the pond over in Germany. Of course, Frank Olson ended up being shoved out of a 13th floor window in New York City because he was having ethical issues dealing with development of chemical and biological warfare items that were being used in Korea at the time. I mean, of course, not everyone is going to be just a terrible monster and can accept that. So, obviously he was having ethical issues. He was thinking of leaving, so they pushed him out of a 13th floor window after Like a week before, they got him super stoned off of LSD. He was having all sorts of psychological side effects to it. And so I'm sure that last week for him was just hell. Let's see. Um, chemical magicians, blah blah blah. Let's see. So Sidney Gottlieb, he's the one that really ran MK Ultra. For anyone who doesn't know, Gottlieb wanted to use Detrick's assets to propel his mind control project to new heights. He asked Dulles to negotiate an accord that would formalize the connection between the military and the CIA in this pursuit. Under the arrangement's provisions, according to a later report, CIA acquired the knowledge, skill, and facilities of the Army to develop biological weapons suited for CIA use. Taking advantage of this arrangement, Gottlieb created a hidden CIA enclave inside Camp Detrick. His handful of CIA chemists worked so closely with their comrades in the Special Operations Division that they became a single unit. Let's see. That's not really that big of a surprise. Let's see. Gottlieb searched relentlessly for a way to blast away human minds so new ones could be implanted in their place, which is exactly what Ewan Cameron was doing in New York, or not New York, in Ontario, Canada, at the time of this as well. He tested an astonishing variety of drug combinations, often in conjunction with other torments like electroshock or sensory deprivation. In the United States, his victims were unwitting subjects at jails and hospitals, including a federal prison in Atlanta and an addiction research center in Lexington, Kentucky. In Europe and East Asia, Gottlieb's victims were prisoners in secret detention centers. One of those centers, built in the basement of a former villa in the German town of Kronberg, might have been the first secret CIA prison. While CIA scientists and their former Nazi comrades sat before a stone fireplace discussing the techniques of mind control, prisoners in basement cells were prepared as subjects in brutal and sometimes fatal experiments. These were the most gruesome experiments the U.S. government ever conducted on human beings up to that point. In one of them, 7 prisoners in Lexington, Kentucky, were given multiple doses of LSD for 77 days straight. In another, captured North Koreans were given depressant drugs, then dosed with potent stimulants and exposed to intense heat and electroshock while they were in the weakened state of transition. These experiments destroyed many minds and caused an unknown number of deaths. Many of the potions, pills, and aerosols administered to victims were created at Detrick. One of the most well-known victims of MKUltra experiments was Frank Olson. Olson was a CIA officer who had spent his entire career at Detrick and knew its deepest secrets. When he began musing about quitting the CIA, his comrades saw a security threat. Gottlieb summoned a team to retreat and arranged for Olson to be drugged with LSD. A week later, Olson died in a plunge from a hotel window in New York. The CIA called it a suicide because that's what they do. Olson's family believes he was thrown from the window to prevent him from revealing what was brewing inside Camp Detrick. If you look into the story, it seems incredibly likely that's exactly what happened. They had to silence him because they were worried about him speaking. Makes sense, but to try and call it a suicide, he wasn't depressed. Let's see. So, a decade of intense experiments taught Gottlieb that there are indeed ways to destroy a human mind. Wow, I'm so glad they figured that out. He never, however, found a way to implant a new mind in the resulting void. The grail he sought eluded him. MK Ultra ended in failure in the 1960s. No, it did not. No, it did not. The conclusion from all of these activities, he admitted afterward, was that it was very difficult to manipulate human behavior in this way. No, it's not. Nevertheless, Fort Detrick, as it was renamed in 1956, remained Gottlieb's chemical base after the end of blah, 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 blah. Okay. Okay, so apparently, I mean, it just seems like they're just going to run cover for Gottlieb at this point. Like, oh, well, he figured out it didn't work. And so he just stopped in the 60s. Well, actually, they stopped in 73 officially. Not in the 60s. So I don't know exactly where they are getting that information from. Let's see. You know, I had heard Stephen Kinzer. Let's see if I can pull this up real quick. Stephen Kinzer, I have heard he's a bit of a limited hangout. You know, meaning that he'll give you some information in his work, but he'll give you just enough information for it to be, let's see, this is the book, Poisoner in Chief, Sidney Gottlieb in a CIA Search for Mind Control. Yeah, it's, like I said, I've heard he's a bit of a limited hangout. I've never read his stuff, but if they're running cover for Gottlieb, like they kind of did in that article, I can't imagine that, you know, they are going to do any better throughout the rest of the book. So I don't want to spend all that time, first of all, paying for the book, and then sitting there just like wondering exactly what information is not correct. Oh boy. Okay, so it's actually just, I mean, it was a good article, but it was just from, you know, a book that I'm not sure that I really want to read in the first place. So let's get to what I actually wanted to talk about. New information about dead Playboy playmate revealed life as beta kitten slave. So this is what we were going to cover as far as the Playboy mind control. You know, as Hugh Hefner has died and there's been a lot more of the girls speaking out, a lot more things being made about him. Of course, I do have my opinions about some of these girls, why they're doing it. Some of them I believe, others I think are in it for what they can get out of it, just like what they were doing with him in the first place. Some of them I definitely believe. Like there's just no ifs, ands, or buts. However, I think a lot of these women, no, I won't even say a lot. I think some of them are opportunists. And if they can jump on a bandwagon, maybe get a book deal, I mean, why not? So, not saying that nothing bad ever happened to them. It's just they're opportunists. That's why they were there in the first place. They knew what they were getting into. So, something else I wanted to run through real quick, just in case people don't know. I had found this article is the origins and techniques of Monarch mind control. We have covered this on the show before, but I don't know. A lot of people are still like unfamiliar with what it is. Definitely go check out the two shows I did with Gray. You can check them out on my channel, whether on Rumble, YouTube, Odyssey, all the places. He talks a lot about it. He has firsthand knowledge. So go check him out. Both were great shows. So let's see. So we're going to run through this real quick. So just to give everyone kind of an idea of what's going on. Let's see. Also, what up, JC? Always good to see you. And Fort Detrick is incredibly eerie. It's like hearing Plum Island or just like even Guantanamo, or like hearing the words CIA black site. That one always freaked me out because it was like, what the hell is a black site? Where is this black site? And who is ending up in these black sites? And more importantly, are they leaving? Um, so I get you. It was an interesting period. Although I don't know if I believe that they're only, researching the best ways to save crops and save humanity from like diseases and stuff. There, I just don't buy it. Okay, let's get into it. So, Monarch programming is a method of mind control used by numerous organizations for covert purposes. It is a continuation of Project MKUltra, a mind control program developed by the CIA and tested on the military and civilians. The methods are astonishingly sadistic. Its entire purpose is to traumatize the victim, and the expected results are horrifying. The creation of a mind-controlled slave who can be triggered at any time to perform any action required by the handler, while mass media ignores the issue. Over 200 million, or 200, 2 million, Americans have gone through the horrors of this program. This article looks at the origins of Monarch programming and some of its methods and symbolism. So, with that said, anyone who does not think that they can handle this, the trigger warning. I would really hate somebody to sit and have to listen to this or anything that might have a problem with it. Just skip it. Otherwise, I've done my due diligence, so let's get into it. So it did say that this was a continuation. So the one thing that people don't quite understand, MKUltra did end in 73 with the church committee hearings, but MKUltra was really just the research and development side of things. It didn't do much after that. So Monarch, like it said here, was the continuation. So MKUltra is the research and development. They find out how to do these things. They establish a protocol in how to do these things. Monarch is all of these things put into action. So that's kind of where it comes into, I guess I should say. Let's see here. Let me just fix this real quick. Maybe I can get, okay. There we go. That's a bit better. So this article contains disturbing elements and might trigger Monarch survivors. So once again, please be aware. Monarch programming is a mind control technique comprising elements of satanic ritual abuse and multiple personality disorder, or dissociative identity disorder at this point, which is DID. It utilizes a combination of psychology, neuroscience, and occult rituals to create within the slaves an alter persona that can be triggered and programmed by the handlers. Monarch slaves are used by several organizations connected with the world elite in fields such as the military, sex slavery, and the entertainment industry. This article will look at the origins of Monarch programming, its techniques and symbolism. While I'm thinking about it, though, one thing I do want to bring up is if you are watching over on YouTube, make sure you're following me other places, because talking about subjects like this so openly without censoring myself is a perfect way to make sure that this goes kaput. So make sure you're watching me, following me other places, because this is a good way for you to lose touch. With that, the origins. Throughout the course of history, several accounts have been recorded describing rituals and practices resembling mind control. One of the earliest writings giving reference to the use of occultism to manipulate the mind can be found in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. It is a compilation of rituals heavily studied by today's secret societies, which describes methods of torture and intimidation to create trauma, the use of potions or drugs, and the casting of spells or hypnotism, ultimately resulting in the total enslavement. Let's see. Other events ascribed to black magic, sorcery, demon possession, where the victim is animated by an outside force. That I actually am not. Like all of these other things, they are familiar, right? That one, if anyone has an explanation for the where the victim is animated by an outside force, part of it, I guess the programmer, right? Anyways, one thing that when I've talked to Gray that he brings up about this is that this is multi-generational typically. So and the demon possessions are also ancestors of Monarch programming. It is, however, during the 20th century that mind control became a science in the modern sense of the term, where thousands of subjects have been systematically observed, documented, and experimented on. Which is obviously the whole problem with all of this. Let's see. So one of the first methodical studies on trauma-based mind control was conducted by Joseph Mengele, a physician working in Nazi concentration camps. He initially gained notoriety for being one of the SS physicians who supervised the selection of arriving prisoners, determining who was to be killed and who was to become a forced laborer. However, he is mostly known for performing grisly human experiments on camp inmates, including children, for which Mengele was called the Angel of Death. Trust the science, am I right? So Mengele is infamous for his sordid human experiments on concentration camp prisoners, especially on twins. A part of his work that is rarely mentioned, however, is his research on mind control. Much of his research in this field was confiscated by the Allies and is still classified to this day. Dr. Green, or Dr. Joseph Mengele, the most significant programmer, perhaps one could give him the title of the father of Monarch programming, was Joseph Mengele, an ex-Nazi concentration camp doctor. Thousands of Monarch mind-controlled slaves in the U.S. had Dr. Green as their chief programmer. Fritz Springmeier, the Illuminati formula to create a mind control slave, which is the source for that. Dr. Joseph Mengele of Auschwitz notoriety was the principal developer of the trauma-based Monarch project and the CIA's MKUltra mind control programs. Mengele and approximately 5,000 other high-ranking Nazis were secretly moved into the United States and South America in the aftermath of World War II in an operation designated Paperclip. The Nazis continued their work in developing mind control and rocketry technologies in secret underground military bases and also right out in the fucking open. I mean, granted, they weren't building rockets out in a field, but the point is like, they weren't really hiding it at a certain point. I mean, NASA became a certain point, or NASA became like a big thing. And the guy in charge of it, like Werner von Braun, they weren't hiding it at a certain point, is what I'm trying to say. Let's see. Let's see. The only thing we were told about the rocketry work with former Nazi star celebrities like Werner von Braun, the killers, torturers, and mutilators of innocent human beings were kept discreetly out of sight, but busy in U.S. underground military facilities, which gradually became home to thousands upon thousands of kidnapped American children snatched off the street, about 1 million per year, and placed into iron bar cages stacked from floor to ceiling as part of the training. These children would be used to further refine the perfect Mengele's mind control techniques. Certain selected children, at least the ones who survived the training, would become future mind controlled slaves who could be used for thousands of different jobs, ranging anywhere from sexual slavery to assassinations. A substantial portion of these children who were considered expendable were intentionally slaughtered in front of and by the other children in order to traumatize the selected trainee into total compliance and submission. Mengele's research served as a basis for the covert illegal CIA human research program named MKUltra. Of course, this famous document from Subproject 8, I believe. Yeah, Subproject 8. Subproject 8 is being set up as a means to continue present work in the general field of LSD at redacted until 11 September 1954. I mean, these are all documents that have been out forever. You can find them pretty much anywhere if anyone wants to read them. So let's see here. Don't want to keep rehashing stuff we've already gone through. Let's see. The most publicized experiments conducted by MKUltra involved the administration of LSD on unwitting human subjects, including CIA employees. And I do think that like they pushed the CIA thing intentionally, because here's one thing that pisses me off about Sidney Gottlieb, among many things. But so when they called Sidney Gottlieb after when the church committee was convening and they were calling all their witnesses to come and testify, subpoenaing that was or a deposition. I don't know. This is why I'm an armchair lawyer, not an actual lawyer. He said that the only way he's coming in to testify about what actually happened would be if he had immunity, which all that says to me is, yeah, we did some really bad things. I will tell you about it, but you have to promise that you're going to protect me when I tell you, because you're not going to protect me if you don't. So that's what that says to me. But when he did go in and testify, a lot of it I do believe is actually it's protected because it was like a closed session. So most of his testimony was given in private to where the public can't get access to it for some reason. I believe. Don't quote me on that part. But what I do know is that the accounts from people who were there stated the way that he testified in front of the church committee was that he just downplayed the whole thing, that he made it seem as if the agents were literally playing around with a child's chemistry set, and they were just goofing around, dosing each other. And so it seemed like the church committee hearing was literally for nothing other than a limited hangout. They were going to give everyone enough info, like, the heart attack gun, the things on poison, some information on Operation Mockingbird. But any of the real spicy stuff is going to be kept, behind closed doors or destroyed in documents. So, I mean, there's so much that we don't know. And they have the ability at plausible deniability because of all the documents being destroyed. So what we have is what we have. But we've been able to piece together some pretty interesting things from not only survivors, what's been left. Let's see, it's been 72 years since they signed it in officially as a project of the CIA. That was just last week. So pretty much since April 13th, 1953 till now, we've found out quite a bit. But just thinking about all the records that were destroyed, it's Oh, I feel like they're probably, I mean, I don't know. There might be more justice if we would have known, but I mean, even with what we know now, and there, it's hard to get people to pay attention. Um, Speaking of which, thank you everyone for being here. I find this an incredibly interesting subject and an incredibly important subject. So I'm glad others at least agree. Feel free to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share, all these things, and follow me on more places than just YouTube, because I'm probably going to make this one private after, because I'm not going to censor myself for this. So it's not yeah, it's not worth it to me. I'll just make it private and it can be up on other platforms. So, however, the scope of MK Ultra does not, however, stop. Experiments involving violent electroshocks, physical and mental torture, and abuse were used in a systematic manner on many subjects, including children. This is a real picture. MK Girl, I believe, is how some people refer to her. I can't remember what her real name is off the top of my head. Um, Although the admitted goals of the project were to develop torture and interrogation methods to use on the country's enemies, some historians asserted that the project aimed to create Manchurian candidates, programmed to perform various acts such as assassinations or other covert missions. MK Ultra was brought to light by various commissions in the 1970s, including the Rockefeller Commission in 75. And we were supposed to trust that. Although it is claimed that the CIA stopped such experiments after these commissions, some whistleblowers have come forth stating that the project simply went underground and Monarch programming has become the classified successor of MK Ultra. I think it's, I mean, so can we say beyond beyond a reasonable doubt in a legal sense that it is continued? I don't know. Maybe. Once again, I'm an armchair lawyer, not a real lawyer. Um, but I think it's pretty well been documented. Anyone who is actually paying attention, who knows what is happening, I think it's pretty well documented that it continued, that it's still going on, that it affects us a lot more than people want to give it credit for. Let's see. The most incriminating statement to date made by a government official as to the possible existence of Project Monarch was the extracted by Anton Shatkin, a writer for the publication The New Federalist, when former CIA Director William Colby was asked directly, "What about Monarch?" He replied angrily and ambiguously, "We stopped that between the late 60s and the early 70s. Okay. Monarch programming. Although there has never been any official admittance of the existence of Monarch programming, because they cannot confirm nor deny, prominent researchers have documented the systemic use of trauma on subjects for mind control purposes. That's the thing. It doesn't have to be called Monarch. It doesn't have to be called really anything. It's not the name that's up for exposure here. It's the use of trauma in a systematic way to be able to just do the absolute most horrific things to people. So the name doesn't really matter. A document from the government doesn't really matter, saying, "Oh yes, this is what we did at this time on this person," which probably doesn't exist, especially in 2025. I have a hard time believing that they're keeping around documents like they used to. I mean, they've still got to be tracking it somehow. Also, they're really brazen, and so they've got to keep some evidence. But it's not like it used to be, guaranteed. And once again, yes, it's not about the name. It's not even about having a document. It's about being able to point to the fact that this is happening. I would have to agree. Anyone that doesn't think this isn't still happening has been brainwashed. But that's all part of it. Let's see. Where was I? Some survivors, with the help of dedicated therapists, were able to deprogram themselves, then go on record and disclose the horrifying details of their ordeals. Yeah, there's many of them. There's more and more, it seems like, coming out, having done the work towards trying to live as normal of a life as possible. And I think everyone, make up your own mind about how you feel about them. I know lots of people do. But after listening to so many, I don't know. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but there's many, many, many of them that I believe. I won't say 100% all of them, but that's me. Most of them, I would say, though. So Monarch slaves are mainly used by organizations to carry out operations using patsies trained to perform specific tasks, who do not question orders, who do not remember their actions, and if discovered, who automatically take themselves out. That one I will self-censor. Caught myself there. They are the perfect scapegoats for high-profile taking other people out. Oh, and it's not going to let me highlight it either. Saran is a good example of that. The ideal candidates for prostitution, slavery, and private movie productions. They are also the perfect puppet performers for the entertainment industry, which all you have to do is just look at Hollywood and see how many people are puppets. Let's see. Corey Dunn Hammond. Now we're going to skip some of these quotes just to move, because this is an incredibly long article. In fact, I'm not even sure if we will get through the whole thing. We're already at 45 minutes. If we don't get through it, I'll end up finishing it at another stream. So that's probably what we're doing, because we're just still right at the top of it. So Monarch programmers cause intense trauma to subjects through the use of electroshock, torture, abuse, and mind games in order to force them to disassociate from reality. A natural response in some people when they are faced with unbearable pain. The subject's ability to disassociate is a major requirement, and it is, apparently, most readily found in children that come from families with multiple generations of abuse. Mental dissociation enables the handlers to create walled-off personas in the subject's psyche, which can then be programmed and triggered at will. It's creating an entirely separate person. I don't even know what to think sometimes, and I sure don't know what to say about it. So trauma-based mind control, this is a quote for anyone listening. Trauma-based mind control programming can be defined as systematic torture that blocks the victim's capacity for conscious processing through pain, terror, drugs, illusion, sensory deprivation, sensory overstimulation, oxygen deprivation, cold, heat, spinning, brain stimulation, and often near death, and then employs suggestion and or classical and operant conditioning, which consists with well-established behavioral modification principles to implant thoughts, directives, and perceptions in the unconscious mind, often in newly formed, trauma-induced, disassociated identities that force the victim to do, feel, think, or perceive things for the purpose of the programmer. The objective is for the victim to follow directives with no conscious awareness, including execution of acts in clear violation of the victim's moral principles spiritual convictions, and volition. Installation of mind control programming relies on the victim's capacity to disassociate, which permits the creation of new walled-off personalities to hold and hide programming. Already dissociative children are prime candidates for programming. And this quote was from Ellen P. Lachter, PhD, The Relationship Between Mind Control Programming and Ritual Abuse. I have flipped through that book. It is quite incredible. Monarch mind control is covertly used by various groups and organizations for various purposes, according to Fritz Springmeier. These groups are known as the Network and form the backbone of the New World Order. Just because I do want to get to the other story, I think we'll pause there because that is like quite a bit of information. Quite a bit of intense information in case anyone's new to that. So what I think we'll do, because I do want to get to the whole reason I wanted to bring this up in the first place. Let's see here. So new information. Let's see. Now that we have a little bit of context for anyone who didn't know the context, this is going to probably make a lot more sense. Okay, let's see. All right, just checking in real quick. How is everyone doing out there? Go ahead and hit the like, hit the subscribe, all those things, all the good things. Let's see here. Okay, looks like we're all good. All right, so to keep going, Paige Young was the November 1968 Playboy Playmate of the Month, and after years of being used by powerful Hollywood men, she took herself out, going pew pew through her skull. Sorry, I shouldn't have laughed at that. That's bad timing. She was found dead, laying on an American flag next to a pentagram laid out on the ground in a room full of pictures on which were written, "Hugh Hefner is the devil." So the flurry of abuse allegations against Bill Cosby led to a closer look at the long-forgotten story of Paige Young, a Playboy playmate in 1968. The woman briefly dated Cosby. Okay. So she was Cosby forced himself on her. That's all I hear. And was passed around by Hugh Hefner, which apparently is what he did with all the playmates. I mean, he would have his girlfriends that, his favorites that nobody could sleep with, but then there were other girls, hang-arounds and stuff that could, be passed around to all of his friends, which, like, obviously that's not like acceptable behavior in my opinion. But some were consenting adults. That doesn't mean that anything bad happening should have been allowed to happen. But what the hell did everyone think was going to happen? The guy's a literal playboy. He wrote the book on it. And like, people are surprised by this. This is the one part that I don't understand about this story is like, what did everyone expect from him? That he was just going to be a perfect gentleman? Get the fuck out of here. There's no excuse for what happened at all, but it's no excuse to be like, pearl clutching and so shocked that somebody like this would act this way. Anyways, so a recent article in the Daily Mail describes Paige Young's life in Hollywood and the gruesome details of her self-deletion. Many details in that article provide clear indication that the playmate was a beta kitten monarch slave who was handled by the Hollywood elite. If you have never heard of Monarch, read this article. That's where we just came from. Like most Playboy models, Paige Young was young and naive when she became the Playmate of the Month in November 1968. She was soon swept up in the disgusting world of the Hollywood elite, where she became a literal sex slave. Ex model Tamara Green Young, while she was dating or servicing Bill Cosby in the 1970s. I was there seeing my boyfriend, and Paige called me and said Bill was on tour and she was traveling with him. They picked me up at a friend's house, and I remember sitting in the back of a stretched black limo with them both, and Bill wanted to score some drugs. I called around and found a bag of pot someplace on the edge of El Paso. Paige was into drugs, and Bill wanted to get her some. She was along on the trip like his pet dog. She was a very subdued person, more like Moon on the water in terms of her personality. They were clearly well acquainted with each other. It didn't seem like a new thing. As far as I know, they dated for a while. Paige always seemed in a stupor, a daze, like he was controlling her. All I remember is that their relationship wasn't healthy. Paige was a young thing who was very much taken advantage of by the men of Hollywood. She was intelligent and talented. It's a tragedy what happened to her, and I would have to agree with that. The sentence, Paige always seemed in a stupor, a daze, like he was controlling her, is significant as it perfectly describes the state of mind of an MK slave or somebody in a dissociative state. I mean, same thing. So Paige Young's friend, Richard Sample, explains how she was passed around and manipulated by Hollywood elite. Quote, she told me all about the men who had abused her. She said she had an affair with John Huston, and that he had done things to her, abused her. I remember one incident which John hid her shoes to make her think she had gone crazy. It was only a small thing, but she was really bothered by it. In another story, Paige confided in Melanie that a relative of a major celebrity had made a sex tape of her. She was terrified of it coming out. In that day, you knew your career was going to be over once it got round. Boy, are things different now. For weeks, all she could think about was getting hold of that tape. She thought it was going to ruin her. And yet, people make a career out of that now. Young was also a regular at the Playboy Grotto, where star-studded orgies were known to occur. At the age of 30, which is about the age where most MK slaves start to break down, Young was found dead in an apparent self-deletion. The details of her death are symptomatic of the mind state of a Monarch programming victim. Fordham model Melanie Myers, who still lives in Hollywood, remembers that fateful day clearly. Paige had the whole thing planned out down to the last detail, she said. It was Palm Sunday, and she came to tell me she was going to delete herself. She stayed in the back house of the duplex where we lived, and I was at the bathroom window. She comes up to the window and calls out to me, I want to show you something. I was like, what are you up to now, Paige? I couldn't be bothered with any more of her drama. But she was like, no, you've got to come and see it. So I go to her apartment, and she gave me a guided tour of her self-deletion scene in her bedroom. That's intense. Myers said that what she found still haunts her to this day. It was chilling, she recalls. There was a large American flag draped across her bed, and there was a pentagram laid out on the wooden floor. Myers added, I remember her showing me around it because it was somehow important, but I didn't know what it meant. But it was the bedroom wall that shocked Myers the most. It was covered floor to ceiling with photos of Hugh Hefner, she said. There was news clippings, magazine articles, everything you could think of. Written across it was something like Hugh Hefner is the devil. The whole wall was a shrine saying, I hate Hugh Hefner. The crux of her anger was against him. The description of Young's self-deletion room contains several revealing details. First, dark occultism is an integral part of Monarch programming, which leads to MK slaves to become obsessed with occult symbols. This probably explains why a pentagram, a symbol that is used in ritual magic, was laid out on the floor of her room. MK slaves also develop an obsession with their handler, programmer, whom they often end up referring to as the devil or Satan. Not only do MK handlers force their slaves to undergo horrific torture to induce trauma, they subject them to all kinds of satanic rituals. Some accounts described slaves being forced into a black wedding with Satan himself, played by the handler, in a ritual designed to cause intense trauma. Friends of Young believe that the elaborate setup of her self-deletion room was an attempt to bring mass media attention to the sick ways of the Hollywood elite. Like most MK-related deaths, mass media either ignored or spread disinformation about her life and death. All facts pointing to the dark side of Hollywood have been swept under the rug. To this day, most sources still wrongly state that Young died of an overdose. The usual official cause of MK-related deaths, despite the fact that police reports clearly state that her death was due to a gunshot. So, memorial site findagrave.com wrongly claims that she passed away from an overdose of sleeping tablets, as does the site who'saliveandwho'sdead.com, and website allstarpics.net, which features several glamour shots of the Burnett, incorrectly claims she committed self-deletion by barbiturate overdose. It's a pretty common story. One can even wonder if she was actually self-deleted by those who controlled her, as she was increasingly talking about leaving it all, a sign of her programming wearing off. Whatever the case may be, the life and death of Paige Young provided yet another glimpse at the dark side of Hollywood, one that is filled with powerful, sadistic men and helpless slaves who suffer for years until they disappear forever. That's honestly just sad. It's just sad. And I think like what's upsetting to me, at least the most, is that obviously a lot of these men get away with it. Like it doesn't never comes back to haunt them or anything. It's really interesting. Sometimes it does. Not to say that it never happens. But we are going to take a look. Let's see. So we're at an hour and 2 minutes. We are going to take a look at the Daily Mail article real quick because it's entirely different than the one we just went through. We're not going to read all of it though, because we are going to get out of here pretty quick. Let's see. And there we are. Okay, so exclusive. Passed around by Bill Cosby, Hugh Hefner, and dozens of Hollywood honchos. This is the Playboy Playmate of the Month who felt so used and abused by the most powerful leading men. We know what she did. Bill Cosby was obsessed with Young, who had caught his eye during his many visits to the glitzy Playboy Club. She was 30 when she took a 38 caliber, and we all know what she did in a scene reminiscent of a 1970s B movie. Young's friend and former model Melanie Myers found Paige's lifeless body laying on a blood-soaked American flag. Oh, so this is the picture of Hugh Hefner and Bill Cosby, and you look at both of them now, because at one point, I mean, even though everyone knew that Hef was a playboy, everyone knew who he was, what he was about. He was still, like that's like Americana, like a lot of people hated him, of course, but a lot of people were just indifferent, so that doesn't affect me or whatever it may be. I just find it kind of interesting. But looking at that now, boy, that is a whole different bag looking at that. Let's see here. So, besties, Bill Cosby and Hugh Hefner are longtime friends. Cosby was obsessed with Young, who had caught his eye during his many visits. Blah blah. Read that. Oh wow, that's an interesting picture I'd never seen. Let's see. Paige always seemed in a stupor, a daze, like he was controlling her. Let's see. Last week it emerged that one of her tormentors may have been legendary comedian Bill Cosby. Young's name was mentioned in media reports along with the dozens of women who made shocking allegations against him. Yeah, man, that blew my mind when I first heard that. It's always the ones you least expect, am I right? Well, I don't know if he's the one that I would least expect. It's up there, America's dad for the longest time. Let's see. Cosby was a regular at the Playboy Mansion. I mean, people should have known back then, right? I mean, he was hanging out with all of these people, but yet he was acting as if he was super clean. He was the super clean family comedian. Didn't like swearing. When somebody is that uptight, I think you should probably have a closer look at them, keep your eye on them, because it's a little weird when people are that sparkling clean or clean. Everyone has some ugly in them, so it's like you don't do anything wrong, really? Then you must be doing everything wrong. So, the full extent of it or how Cosby contributed to the young starlet's demise may never be known. But what is clear is that she would later, okay, I was confused there for a second. But what is clear is that she would later blame him and a host of other Hollywood stars for her fragile state of mind that led to her self deletion. Young was found dead April 7th, 1974. Wow, just 10 days ago. But, many, many decades ago. In her West Hollywood apartment in a scene reminiscent of, okay, we already read that. I didn't really want to watch that. Let's see. Interesting. That's just really weird. Like, why would she show this to her friend, right? Like, why would she? Didn't seem like she was calling for help, at least the way that she described it. It didn't seem like she was, like, hey, look what I'm about to do. Come help, please. Maybe she was. But if she was programmed, which I think it's incredibly highly likely that she was, But then again, I mean, there's so much we're not being told, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe whoever else is also wrong, that they also think this, but I don't think so. Um, it just, I mean, it makes sense why she would be calm, not asking for help on the way out. That would be part of her programming, to delete herself so that the problem goes away. Um, I mean, it makes sense. It just makes you wonder, like, why she did that. But I guess if it's part of the programming, it's part of the programming. Unless she was breaking through it, I don't know. This is just a weird situation. It's really, really weird. I do believe this to be a genuine case of Monarch programming, followed to its logical conclusion that does not, get help, where somebody is unable to, break the programming, or be able to get themselves unprogrammed, or yeah, I think it's a successful, um, a successful completion of the programming from the point of the programmer would look something like this. This, and also, oh, what's her name? Nicole. Oh, blonde, 90s Playboy. Same thing. Um, Married the old guy. Oh, what was her name? Nicole. I can't remember. Um, Anyways, it's just interesting. But look at those two sick fucks. Look at those two old bastards right there, just chucking it up like it ain't no thing. Yeah, well, Cosby might as well have, you know, fallen off the face of the earth. The other old bastards rotting in the ground, so good for him. Mail Online has also found the 1974 coroner's report on Young's death. The report corroborates Myers' versions of events, listing the cause of death as gunshot, and noting a condition contributing to death was deletion. The brief report, compiled by the LA County Chief Medical Examiner, states descendant, person who has died, found in residence by friend Melanie Myers, descendant lying on bed with .38 revolver in right hand. Let's see. Before now, little was known of the Burnett beauty, who had burst onto the scene as Hugh Hefner's Playmate of the Month in November '68. She traveled the country doing media interviews and public appearances after appearing on the front cover of the renowned magazine. And as her fame expanded, the young model and talented painter embraced the attention that came with it. But 40 years on, very little detail of Young's career or death can be found. Fact files of Young state she was born in Los Angeles. And I don't care about her measurements. That's weird. Okay. That's a cool picture, though. In an interview that went alongside her centerfold appearance in November 1968, Young described herself as a struggling painter who liked being alone and dreamed of one day studying in Paris. Young was quoted as saying, "If people would just sit there and really talk to, instead of at each other, I'm sure they'd be a lot happier." Nothing groundbreaking, but true nonetheless. Hmm. Yeah, Playboy interviews were always weird. Am I right? I always just found it weird. Like, what are your turn ons? I don't care. I really don't care. Let's see. See if there's just anything else in here. Otherwise, we're going to get out of here in just a minute. But any questions or comments, feel free to leave it in the chat. Make sure you hit the like, share, subscribe, all of these things. Let's see. I don't really see anything else. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. The sex tape, blah, blah, blah. Cosby and his wife. Look at that shit from 1966. What a piece of shit. Oh my, what a piece of shit. I know hindsight's 2020 and we all say we should have known, but I mean, look at that motherfucker. Should have known. Let's see. I'm not seeing anything any more groundbreaking or interesting. So yeah, I think we'll get out of here on that. I just kind of wanted this to be a bit of a quick stream anyways. Have to get the stream out on Thursday. These were a couple of things that came across my desk, as if, you know, people do that thing anymore. Let's see, where are we? There we are. Okay, so I've got some pretty fun things coming out. I've been working diligently on the next part or iteration of the false memory syndrome thread. I have been working on tearing apart this idea of the witch hunt, right? That was always the argument. Oh, it's a witch hunt. It's a witch hunt. There's, you know, none of these things are happening. It's a witch hunt. Well, that's a stupid argument, in my opinion, along with several others. So I've been working at taking that down, trying to get that ready. We'll be making another appearance on No Way Jose here soon. And other than that, there's going to be another stream here on Rise to Liberty on Sunday. Otherwise, there is going to be some content that will come out like in between the typical streams. So anyone who's new here, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays are the streams. Usually much earlier than this, usually a lot more interesting than this. Otherwise, actually, let me know in the chat somewhere. Let me know. You're stupid. We don't want to hear from you. Or, yeah, go ahead. Do what you did. Just make it better. Or, yeah, we liked it. Either way, let me know. It kind of dictates on Anna Nicole. Yes. Anna Nicole Smith. Thank you. Oh, that feels so much better in my head now. Thank you. Yeah, Anna Nicole Smith was very clearly another case of Monarch programming gone right from the programmer's perspective. Anyways, so Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays are the live streams, and then there are going to be shorter videos coming eventually. They are anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, maybe even 5 to 15. That way, there's a little bit of content for everyone. Plus, there's only some things that are suited for that amount of time. So, anyways, make sure and go to risetoliberty.com or risetoliberty.com/links. Make sure and actually go check out once again, Buy Me a Coffee. Let's see here. Whoop. A little too far. There we go. Buy Me a Coffee. Go to buymeacoffee.com/DProgram. DEPROGRAM. You can leave tiny one-time donation. Just literally buy me a cup of coffee so I can make sure get all of this research done. The more research I get done, the better content I put out, the more content I put out. So any help is appreciated. Otherwise, hit the like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, and make sure follow me on X, Instagram, Telegram. And other than that, I think we're out of here. So until next time, stay free, my friends.